Hello, welcome to this week's How's the Market Pensacola. Well, inventory's up 25%, so prices have to be coming down. That was an argument I was having this past week with another real estate expert in a different area. And what he was quoting, this was on a podcast I was on, what he was quoting was, he was talking about the national numbers. They're up 25%. Inventory has risen 25%. So the indication is, hey, it's the bottom has happened. We're starting to rise in inventory now, so prices have to come down. Couple of problems with that. One, he was correct. If you've watched this show any amount of time, you know that I'm constantly telling you, watch conclusions when people present a premise. So this particular premise was, hey, we went nationally from 2 months worth of inventory to 2.5 months worth of inventory. What does that mean? That means, well, we're up 25%. So he's correct. Does that mean prices are going to go down? No, not necessarily. We still have a long way to go to get into a neutral market. 2 to 2.5 months, if you know this show, knows that it's still a hyper seller's market. Now that is a national number, and I kept bringing that up. The guys out of Texas that we were arguing back and forth a little bit, he's like, well, this is what's happening. I'm like, well, I know that there are some areas around the country that I can concede. You may start to see some prices fall. I know here along the Gulf Coast. Hello, welcome to this week's How's the Market Pensacola. Well, inventory's up 25%, so prices have to be coming down. That was an argument I was having this past week with another real estate expert in a different area. And what he was quoting, this was on a podcast I was on, what he was quoting was, he was talking about the national numbers. They're up 25%. Inventory has risen 25%. So the indication is, hey, it's the bottom has happened. We're starting to rise in inventory now, so prices have to come down. Couple of problems with that. One, he was correct. If you've watched this show any amount of time, you know that I'm constantly telling you, watch conclusions when people present a premise. So this particular premise was, hey, we went nationally from 2 months worth of inventory to 2.5 months worth of inventory. What does that mean? That means, well, we're up 25%. So he's correct. Does that mean prices are going to go down? No, not necessarily. We still have a long way to go to get into a neutral market. 2 to 2.5 months, if you know this show, knows that it's still a hyper seller's market. Now that is a national number, and I kept bringing that up. The guys out of Texas that we were arguing back and forth a little bit, he's like, well, this is what's happening. I'm like, well, I know that there are some areas around the country that I can concede. You may start to see some prices fall. I know here along the Gulf Coast, we're not seeing that at all. We have this huge influx of demand. Remote workers moving to our little piece of paradise has increased demand even further than what we normally see. Now, supply does drop off some, usually after 4th of July. We have seen a slight increase, but as I'll show you here in a few minutes, most of the price points that people start off with as first-time homebuyers or slightly move up, that 100,000 to 350,000 mark. Yeah, that's still under 2 months inventory, some of them under a month's inventory. So watch your headlines, especially as we come into the fall. Not that we're anywhere close to fall right now, although I think we're like 98 days, as this goes out, I think we're 98 days away from Halloween. Hard to believe. But anyways, yeah, watch your premises as conclusions. Meaning, someone puts out a premise, hey, our inventory's gone up 25%. That's true. The conclusion that prices must fall is not true. Have I seen some reductions on the market and around here in the Gulf Coast? Meaning, have I seen prices that were on the market and all of a sudden they reduced the price? Yes. But the price they started at was ridiculous to begin with. It was a seller trying to get too much. Now, what does this mean for the sellers right now? We are seeing prices slightly increase. So could I make the argument that now really would be a good time to sell because things may change as we go into next year? Possibly. Do I think that we're going to be back to a neutral market by January? Probably not. We've still got too much of a demand here. So now would still be, the second half of this year would still be a good time to have that conversation. What does it mean for buyers? You know, I've had some buyers say, well, should I just hold off to the first of the year? I wouldn't do that because price appreciation is still a thing right now. All right, just like I said before, if you've never seen the show, I always start with this slide right here. It says if we have between 6 and 7 months worth of inventory, we have a neutral market. Anything greater than 7 months considered a buyer's market. Anything less than 6 months considered a seller's market. What the slide doesn't say is anything greater than 9 months is a hyper buyer's market. Anything less than 3 months is a hyper seller's market. We're going to jump over to Escambia County. And this is what I was saying. See, if you remember last week, this was 400 and something. I want to say 470, 480. So we do see a slight increase in inventory. But just like I was saying at the beginning here, if you haven't looked at the show, over here is our price points. Over here is our month's inventory. That's why I showed that first slide. 100,000 to 150,000 is 1 month's inventory. 150,000 to 300,000, so those 3 marks, under a month's inventory. 300,000 to 350,000, a month's inventory. So you see, even with those national numbers, let me see if I can talk today. Even with those national numbers, they were arguing, hey, we're seeing an increase in prices. We're not being reflected as much here along the Gulf Coast. So I talk national numbers a lot on, the Facebook page, on the blog, on Instagram. I talk a lot about national numbers, but I also want to bring it back down to local, and that's part of the reason I do this show right here. Looks like the only thing outside of a hyper seller's market is that luxury. It has gone up just slightly. I thought it was 3.2 last week, and now it's 3.4 months. But besides that, pretty much everything is still in a hyper seller's market. Even though we have more active properties overall, the demand is still there, and it's gobbled them up just that quick. So that is Escambia County. Let's jump over to Santa Rosa real quick. Pretty much same thing. There's nothing under $50,000, not even a lot. We have gone up a little bit in inventory, 281, but the same thing. Look at this, that 150,000 to 200,000 mark, there's 0.2. You called me right now and said you had a pre-approval for 180,000 and you want to buy a house in Santa Rosa County, I can send you all 6 that are available. That's it. That's all you have to look at, unless you start looking at some off-market stuff, which is what we're having to find right now. There's some times that I'm having to generate market stuff, which is what we do. That's what I get paid to do, is find stuff. 200,000 to 250,000, 0.3. There's only 21 properties. Looks like the biggest inventory point, besides the 700,000 plus, which is not a hyper seller, it's just a seller's. But our regular ones looks like the 350 to 400,000 mark. There's 36 active, but even that is only 1 month's inventory. And a lot of this right here is builders. This is a sweet spot for builders right now. 300,000 to 400,000, especially in Santa Rosa County. That's kind of a sweet spot for builders right now. So a lot of this is your model homes, or the homes they put on the MLS. They never take that home off. They might sell 9 of that particular home in a subdivision, but they never take that particular one off. So that's what this data gets reading. So we see 36 active there. But boy, Santa Rosa County is just ridiculous on inventory right now. It is so very low. Look over here too, especially if you're a buyer right now. Pay attention to this. This is your list to sell ratio. Everything's selling for 100 to 101%. You do have that 50 to 100,000. I've mentioned this for the last couple of weeks. In Escambia County, let's jump back over there real quick. That under 50 was at 88, and 50 to 100 was at 94. That's usually Hurricane Sally damage stuff. So it's being negotiated because there's a lot of repairs to be done. So anyways, that's where we sit on the 2 counties. Wanted to bring up as we end again, I'm trying to make these shows a little quicker. I did want to bring up our instant offer, which seems to be extremely popular program. There's a link below if you're interested in it. Basically, we come out, I chat, I take a look at it. Within 24 hours, I can give you an instant offer. You know exactly what that offer is going to be. And we can decide whether or not that would actually make sense for you, or if it would be better for you to put it on the market. Let's see if the market can generate you more. So it kind of is situationally dependent. Some people need to move, need to move quick. I've had a few people that have taken up the instant offer program, and they needed to get done and get gone. It seems to be extremely popular with people that have inherited property that needs a lot of repairs. I had one couple, I think I told you this a couple weeks ago. This couple hasn't been to Florida, much less Pensacola, in probably 20 years. Parents passed away. They inherited the property. It needed a bunch of work, so instant offer actually worked out really well. But it gives you the opportunity to see, hey, this is an instant offer. So here is this offer on the spot. And do we want to take that, or do we want to look at marketing it, perhaps going through the traditional route and maybe be able to get you some more? I don't know. So that has been a very, very popular program. The link is absolutely below. That's it. Quick show this week. Just want to make sure I bring in the numbers so that you can make good decisions for you and yours. Thanks for watching. Have a great week. I'm a man on a mission. My mission is to help people break through all the noise out there and don't need no permission. I want to help you get to actual truth. Don't you just want the truth?